Babe, have you ever thought about that you need to watch your butt?
Um, nope, that'd be kind of a hard thing to do, but I have never thought about that.
I've been thinking lately about how damaging the butt is in marriage.
Okay, well, let's get into that, Nathan.
Hey everybody, I'm Nathan Warnock.
I'm Andrea Warnock, and you've joined us for Marriage Monday on the Marriage by Design podcast. And this is a time where we get to talk about God's design for marriage and where we see that in the Bible and how we live that out practically.
That's right. And this week I wanted to talk just a little bit about something I've been thinking about, not just in the context of marriage, but definitely included in the context of marriage. And, it's funny to make the butt joke. But, of course, we're talking about the word butt, not the butt anatomical
Not
part.
the butt with two T's?
Right.
Got it.
That's right. And this is kind of a difficult message to share, but it's a really important one. So I just ask you to hear me out because probably your inner defense attorney is going to come out a little bit. So just, listen to what we have to say today and then, just spend some time thinking introspectively yourself about, in what areas this butt problem can come up in your marriage and in your life in general. So I coach a Little League baseball team along with a couple of other guys, and we've really been frustrated lately with, a young man does something on the field that's incorrect. And you go to him and say, hey, why didn't you swing at that pitch when you were up to bat? And the two responses you can have are either, hey, you know what, I missed it, my bad, I just got fooled, right? That's not the response we've been getting. Right? The response we've been getting is, yeah, but the umpire made a bad call. Yeah, but the pitcher throws too hard. Yeah, but the pitcher throws too slow. There's all been tons of but excuses. And we know this from, if you have children, right? You probably have dealt with this with your children.
There's
I know we've dealt with it
everything.
with our children. Whenever somebody gets caught doing something that they should be doing, you hear immediately a, yeah, but whatever. And this is something that with our kids and when we were kids, I'm sure someone trained you up to not, you got to stop doing that, right? You can't always be the victim. You can't always be the one to make excuses because ultimately it'll wreck your life, right? I mean, that's why we teach our kids that, because if they constantly are letting themselves off the hook by blaming it on someone else or on their circumstances or whatever, then how are they ever going to be able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and overcome any kind of legitimate difficulty that they have in their life? So we understand that with our kids. I came across someone that posted some comments on a couple of our YouTube videos, and I'm not going to name the specific commenter or put their comment up or read it. I'm not even going to read it verbatim. If you're really that worried about it, you can go into the comments on YouTube and find it. But and if you're the person that posted this and you're watching this video, I'm not even necessarily calling out your tone because obviously it's toneless, right? It's just a text comment on a YouTube video. But I'm going to address the way that it came across to me when I read it. And you'll just have to forgive me if this is not how it was meant. But there were a couple of videos that we posted up where we were talking, it was specifically talking about sex. And if you've watched this channel for any length of time, that sex is something that we believe is critically important to a marriage. It's something that Satan attacks almost immediately. And we've said a number of times that sex is really a gift that God gave us that's the fulfillment of his desire for marriage, that the two become one flesh. It's our sort of marriage act of worship. And because it's such a sacred sort of sacrament of marriage, it's one that Satan attacks constantly, right? By either trying to get us to screw that up sexually before we're married, or by trying to get us in a situation where we're not coming together sexually after we're married. And so we've done a ton of videos talking about sex. Well, in these couple of particular videos, we were talking about common reasons why couples don't come together and have sex. And I believe one of the reasons you were addressing was the tiredness issue of just... You're just tired from, as a mom speaking, because that's how you're speaking in the
tired.
video. You're just tired from a day of, hanging out with the kids and all that. And you had made a suggestion on there of, sometimes you just gotta take a nap, so that you can, sort of rejuvenate yourself.
Even when you're not tired, you should take a nap.
Right, right. But you were talking about that specifically as like a strategy for being sexually available for your spouse. And then I was also talking about, guys, we've got to step up and love on our wives, and that can minister to them in a way that allows them to better respond to us sexually. Well, this particular person had posted up comments to both those sections of the video, and essentially what those comments said is the 20-minute nap thing is, just not an effective strategy for some reasons, but he should be helping out at home anyway, right? Because you must have said something in that video along the lines of like, hey, when you have sex when you pursue your husband sexually, there are benefits to that. And that's true. And so anyway, the comment was, yeah, you could do this, but he should be doing these things anyway. And the comment to my section of that video was, well, the husband shouldn't be just doing things around the house. He might have sex, but he shouldn't be doing things around the house just for that purpose. And that is true. Yeah, so here's the thing about both of those comments. They're true.
Right, they're both true.
Those are both true statements.
Yes.
So it isn't anything with the content of those comments that I go, I need to take umbrage with this, or I need to pick at this. But what really struck me in both of those comments was this idea of, these things might be good, but he should be doing these things anyway. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me of something that we see so much amongst married couples that are in sort of a death spiral or a damaging spiral in their marriage. Is this idea of, hey, you know what? You need to stop hanging around with these friends because they're damaging your marriage. Yeah, I probably should do that, but she has friends that she hangs out with that aren't helpful for our marriage either. Hey, you know what? He's being really stepped on sexually and suffocated in that way. You've got to find a way to love him sexually on a more regular basis because it's killing him. Yeah, I probably should do that, but we have these kids and he stays at work. It's an immediate thing. Right? And it's really, correct me if I'm wrong, but it really is a justification of your wrong behavior relative to the other person's wrong behavior.
Yeah, and don't hear this as being a sexual thing only. It's not.
It's not.
It's not like Nathan's saying, this has to do with just sex. It has to do with marriage in general. I mean, if you know there's something lacking in your marriage, something that needs to be worked on, and you're finding an excuse not to work on that because of the other person's lack of something
you think they're doing wrong,
because the other person is doing something wrong too, that doesn't give you an excuse to not do your part. You know, we're called to do our part regardless of whether our partner is doing theirs or not. So my response to my response to our marriage should always be to give 100%, even if Nathan's giving 0% or 2% or whatever. You know, the comment that we got on the video is with like, yeah, but he should be doing those things, like helping out with the house and all that anyway. Right. Yes, he should. And he does, by the way. I mean, even when he doesn't feel like we're in a very good marriage at the moment or not fulfilled sexually or whatever, he does. Because it's about the marriage. It's about serving the Lord, not necessarily serving the other person. And coming at it from my view, like if I'm meeting his needs sexually and we have a good relationship that way, he's just more motivated to do, not that we have that kind of relationship because I want him to be more motivated to do things around the house, but I want him to feel good about our marriage. Right. I want him to feel like, yeah, I'm happy to do this stuff for our marriage because I enjoy my marriage, and it's not something, I don't really feel like rubbing her feet right now, but I'm happy to because I enjoy, you know, my marriage. Right. You're more motivated to do something that you don't really want to be doing when you appreciate the relationship. And so, yes, I want that for our marriage. I want him to feel like, yeah, I'm that's fine to do these things because I love the relationship that we have. But he shouldn't, but even if he's like, this relationship sucks right now, yes, he should be doing those things anyway, and vice versa too. Right. For me. And we just have no excuse. There just is no, yeah, I should be doing this, but there should not be any excuse because we're called to honor the Lord with our marriage and with our actions, and I can only control my actions. So do my actions in my marriage honor the Lord regardless of what Nathan's doing? If the answer is no, then I need to work on that within myself. And when you're in that crazy cycle of, yeah, but he's doing that, and he's saying, yeah, but she's doing that, it's the crazy cycle, you know? And Emerson Eggridge says the most mature one is the one who steps off and decides, I'm not going to use the excuses anymore. Right, but the only way that's ever going to happen is if you understand that you serve somebody greater than your spouse. And that's really the point, right. Is you can always find that's a never-ending spiral, right? I would love to talk to the couple that thinks, hey, I can pick on stuff she's doing and she's not going to have anything to come back on to me. That's just not a thing. If you want to do that, you know, trading blows with each other, that's a zero-sum game. It's going to continue on forever. Mm. Well, the only way to get off that, because what you said's right. When you go and look at Ephesians, that's unconditional love towards a wife from a husband and unconditional respect towards a husband from a wife. That means unconditionally, right? This was the passage that was raised on that comment, is the verse that says his body belongs to her and her body belongs to his, which we raised on as a issue when we think about sex, right? How do we think about my body belonging to you? And the comment was, well, if your wife doesn't want to have sex with you and your body belongs to her, doesn't that mean you shouldn't want to have sex because your body is hers? Well, that was how it was presented. Right. And the problem is that that isn't a thing, right? I mean, yes, do we need to be respectful when it comes to those kinds of feelings? Of course. But the point is, that's in and of itself proves the point of, if the constant focus is on the other person, then you're never actually looking at yourself and how your behavior compares to the standard that God set before you. And that's really the point. And from personal experience and from hearing other people that we're close with in their experiences, the most life-giving times of our marriage is when we're paying attention to our own stuff. That's exactly right. And I'm not saying Nathan could be doing better in this, and Nathan isn't being who he's supposed to be in that, and I'm really annoyed. I'm telling you, the most life-giving times of our marriage are the times where I'm paying attention to who I'm called to be by the Lord, and Nathan's paying attention to who Nathan's supposed to be called to be by the Lord, and it works, and it is life-giving. I mean, that's the best way to put it. And we have a great number of friends who say the same thing. It's the craziness is when we choose to start looking at the other person, and focusing on where they're failing.
Right. Romans 8:28 is a verse that I hear a lot, which says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." That's one of those feel-good verses. Mm-hmm. But verse 29 is an important one, because that verse 28 begs the question of, well, those who are called according to his purpose, well, what's his purpose? Verse 29 answers that. It says, "For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers." So the question is, all things work together for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Well, what purpose? The purpose of being conformed to the image of his Son. See, that's really the point, is when we think about marriage. Marriage is a spiritual picture. We've talked about, it's a foundational point we make on this program. And so we, as part of a couple in a marriage, we have a responsibility to conform ourselves in our half of our marriage to the way that is a reflection of Christ's love for the church. That's our job.
Yep.
And thank God that Jesus didn't come down here on earth and go, I'd like to sacrifice myself for these people, but did you see what Peter did?
Amen.
3 times before? Right. But did you see what the prostitutes and tax collectors? But did you see what the rich young ruler wouldn't even give up for me? But there's all the buts.
Yeah.
Right? He had them all. I mean, go read the Gospels. The disciples were a wreck.
They were.
When it came to understanding his purpose here on earth. And it's easy to go, well, they didn't have the Holy Spirit, so cut them a break. Well, that's fine. But we have the Holy Spirit as Christians now, and yet what do we do in our marriage?
Screw it up.
Oh, well, I'd sure love to love Andrea the way she needs to be loved, but she didn't have dinner ready. But she spoke rude to me on the phone earlier today. But.
Yeah, I mean, 1 Peter 2, and then talks about, I think it's 2, talks about Jesus' sacrifice, and then right into 1 Peter 3 talks about the relationship between man and wife. There's a reason that it talks about Jesus' sacrifice, and then it goes into marriage.
Right.
Because marriage is meant to be a sacrifice of yourself for the other person.
Right. So how do we sum this all up? Well, I think the only way we can really say it humbly, and hopefully for you guys to spend some time thinking quietly to yourselves, is do you take your role in your marriage seriously? The things the Lord calls you to biblically and through the power of his Spirit in your marriage, do you take those things seriously, or do you allow those things, if you're being honest, to be defined through the lens of what your spouse is doing or not doing?
Yep.
Right? I mean, start keeping track of even your own thoughts, right? When you and your spouse have opportunities to grow in communication.
An argument.
Amongst the two of you. When you have an argument, do you take the things your spouse is saying in the lens of, hey, these things Andrea is saying, are these right biblically? Like, the things she's calling me out on, does the Bible say, hey, you should be doing these things? Or do I allow it to be through the lens of, what's she even talking about? Look at what she's doing. Right? Really start thinking about that in your own marriage, because what Andrea said's right. There's a long line of really God-honoring, successful, changed marriages that we've allowed to see transform, and a key transformation in those marriages were when people stopped doing I should be doing that, but look at her or look at him, and went to, God, show me how I can be a better husband, regardless of whether my wife changes anything about her or not. Should she? Yeah, but two things can be true at once. Right? She has things to work on and I have things to work on, but I'm called by the Lord to be in this covenant relationship before him. And the covenant's between me and him. Right? The covenant I made on my wedding day, I said it to Andrea, but it was to God, because God's the one bigger than me that ultimately empowers me to walk out this walk of a husband and a father that I've been called to.
Yeah, and for those of us who are parents, you have a relationship, and for me, I have 5, that is the position I'm in all the time. I am choosing constantly to pour into them, give to them, try to be a better mom for them, regardless of what I get back from them.
Right.
And I think a lot of parents are like that, and so you can understand that. You have that kind of relationship in your life, you can do it with your spouse too.
Right.
So don't say, I can't do that. If I'm not getting anything back, I can't do that. You probably do that every day.
Right.
You're probably looking at, how can I be a better parent? I need to give to my children. I need to be what my children need in a parent, and all those sorts of things, regardless of the way I get treated, although it hurts sometimes, regardless of what they do or don't give back to me, without expecting really anything in return. So if we can do that for our kids, we can do that for our spouse too.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, babe. Well, anyway, guys, we wanted to throw that out there because we've talked about it in bits and pieces here in other videos, but I wanted to have a video specifically dedicated to just encouraging you to be real about the times you allow excuse making to become a part of who you are as a husband or as a wife, and let's cut it out. It's not God honoring. It's going to ultimately bring your marriage down, not up. And with the power of the Holy Spirit, we can do that. We can be the husband that he calls us to be, regardless of the but.
I will not be the husband that God has called me to be.
It's good.
I will try to be the wife that God calls me to be.
Regardless of the but.
Regardless of anyone's but.
That's exactly right. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you being here. Let us know if you have any comments on this video, if you're watching it on YouTube, or if you're watching it on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or any of the others. Really help us out if you would leave a written review of this episode on those platforms. And also make sure you're subscribed if you've not already. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. And remember, God is for your marriage. Have a great week.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Marriage by Design. If you were impacted by this video, like it by hitting the thumbs up below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and once you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when new episodes release.
Excellent. Also, one of the huge pillars of our show is interactivity between us and you. So we would love you to comment down in the comments below if you have thoughts about this video, or if you have questions or other things you'd like to see considered in the future. In addition, if you'd like, you can email us. That's marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram @marriagebydesignpodcast, or you can find us on Facebook by searching Marriage by Design Podcast. Finally, if you want to, you can tweet at us. We do have a Twitter account that is @MarriageXDesign. Thanks, and have a great day.